Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden and Will Southard.
Welcome back to the PPP. It's time for the flavor of the week. My name is Brian. Please, as always, subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Rate, review, and tell a friend, because that is how we grow this here Pigskin Party. Joining me again, as always, Mr. Will Southard. Will, how you feeling, man? I know you're a little tired right now.
I'm good, man. I'm looking at Tommy all tucked in with his blankie, grooving to our intro music. Like he's cozy, man. He's vibing? Is that what the kids say? That's what he's doing.
That's correct.
Yeah, vibing. Okay,
vibing is the correct nomenclature
so
for us.
He's about to get a quote unquote vibe check from Nick in a few minutes when we talk about the deep dive, though.
Before we bring in our guests, Will, it has been a few weeks since you wore a silly hat for the Flavor of the Week episode, and I gotta admit, I'm a little disappointed.
There's a minimum level of energy that you need to wear a funny hat, and I don't have that right now.
No, there isn't. No, just put the thing on your head. The hat does all the work.
No, I went a week with a 90-degree office, so I'm gonna enjoy the fact that it's 74 in here right now.
The AC on your nearly bald head. Okay, fine. I get that. I will give you that consolation. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in our guest coming back from the main NFL episode, Nick Davis, a.k.a. Zeke Spoon, at Spoon of Zeke on Twitter, and a Cowboys fan. As I mentioned, if you were listening on the main episode, we have always done our team deep dives as part of the main NFL episode, but we're switching it up this week because we had so much draft coverage to get to that our main Flavor of the Week topic this week is, in fact, a Cowboys deep dive. So Nick is our Cowboys fan for this deep dive. Nick, how are you feeling right now?
It's all right. No big deal. Used to the hate. It's kind of like easy to hate on the Cowboys, but I'm glad to be back. Glad to be talking the draft. I was kind of excited, kind of not excited, but we'll get more into it.
Well, let's talk about how easy it is to hate the Cowboys, because our other guest was bred to hate the Cowboys, and that is Tommy Yu, Eagles fan and host of the You Dive Deep podcast. Tommy, how are you feeling knowing we're about to go deep on the Dallas Cowboys?
I feel like before we started recording, I said I was booby-trapped because I was trying to be objective as I can, being born in Philly, bleeding green, and anytime anyone says anything about Dallas, I'm like, yo, this will not fly. And so as I was looking over the sheet, I was like, oh my gosh, but I think what they were doing was smart. And then good old Anthony, he lifted my spirits, like, but it's Dallas. And all I see is red now. They're just, I can't wait. Everything is justified, and I'm about to air out some laundry now.
Okay.
That is what I like to hear. The bull has been prodded. And it doesn't matter that Nick's such a nice guy and he spends his time getting everybody more followers on Twitter. Tommy, no holds barred, going for his throat. All right, so as always, if you've listened to the Flavor of the Week episode before, we're not going to go from, I think we did an hour-and-a-half episode just now, talking about the NFL draft, directly into talking about more NFL, except we kind of are. So this is the draft recap. This is a special week. Our palate cleanser is going to be football-related. So it started off that I asked all the guests and my co-host Will, hey, have you seen Draft Day, the movie? Every single one of them said no. So that was my idea for the palate cleanser. So I'm like, screw it. I'm going to talk about draft prep. So what do you do, if anything, to prep for the draft? That's going to be our palate cleanser. It's not really going to be a cleanser because we're still talking football, but who cares? You're listening to this because you're a football fan. It's a football podcast. We're just going to go all football crazy like. So I'll start with you, Tommy. Do you have any type of, you mentioned how, you took a little break from your current podcast between seasons so that you could focus on the draft. Do you have any type of prep? Do you do anything the day of leading up to the NFL draft? What do you do to get ready?
Oh, no, I completely do. And this is where I guess when I say I like football to like people like, oh, ha, 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 ha. No, it's like to a degenerate level. And whenever the draft comes up, so I don't watch a lot of college football, admittedly. So I don't like to put on this fake mask saying, oh, I know all about prospects. So I wait until right around the end of February because, Super Bowl happened, all the other news. Now I have all the film I need about the upcoming college prospects that I need. And so what I typically like to do is I make a big board of 100 prospects, and usually right around 20, maybe I try to get to all 100, but I never make it all the time. But I mostly focus on the offensive side because I love fantasy football. So what I like to do is I used to have a lot of sports blogs and stuff like that, and I used to write for other people and whatnot. And so one thing I was kind of took on the role of was writing these articles about upcoming quarterback prospects. And ever since then, I usually try to watch around 30 hours per prospect, a quarterback specifically. And when I mean 30 hours, I mean like that's like minutes time when I'm actively actually doing something, not just like watching whatever. And so I try to put in about 30 hours. This year, I only reached about 28 on average on each prospect, at least in the quarterback position. And then in skills position, I try to put in about 10 hours in each. But this year, it was more around 7 to 8 hours on average. So I like to put the grind in as much as I can. And then so anytime I'm ever blessed to be on a podcast like this, I can finally flex a little bit and be like, hey, we Philly fans are really dumb, but you could kind of entertain us with anything.
Wait a minute. Did you just say that you put in 10 hours minimum per prospect and you get to almost 100 prospects?
Oh, yeah.
That's like 1,000 hours, bro.
Yeah, what I enjoy doing NFL a lot is I get to work
Will does
remotely.
math.
Yeah, I get to work remotely, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
That's 25 man weeks.
It is a blessing. And like I said, these are just on average, and this year I didn't make it to all 100. So that's why I was trying to think of like percentage-wise, but I was like, wait a second, it's out of 100. So then I would have to give like a very specific number. So I think I got close to around 70 to 75 this year. But then once again, it's not like when it comes to like offensive linemen and stuff like that, I'm going to be admittedly honest. I've coached football. I've done a lot of different kind of football things. So I know what I'm looking at, but there's only so much film I can find on very specific guards and tackles where I'm like, oh, this is going to be pretty rough.
Well, I'm impressed. Will may have his jokes, but good for you, dude. I wish I had the time to dedicate to that kind of film study. I don't think any of us are going to be able to top that as far as draft prep. You're basically, infringing on the Todd McShay, Mel Kiper territory. But let's find out from everyone else. Nick, do you have, and don't feel the need to compete with Tommy just because he's an Eagles fan, but
he's
a
Cowboys fan. He's going to lie. And here we go. Here we go.
Let's hear from America's team.
Honestly, for me, leading up to the draft, I get really excited because, people get picked and you can actually see where players are going to fall to the teams. You can start seeing the mock drafts you're looking at, or the mock drafts you did start working out. But for me, honestly, I have no prep going into the draft. I pay attention to football all year round, and I kind of just catalog it into my mind. So when the draft comes around, I'm usually sitting here with my cat, my girlfriend, and she's been around. She's been with me for 8 years, so I've she's seen a lot of drafts. And it's kind of gotten to like a habit of like, oh, I'll tell her a backstory that I think that she'll enjoy about the prospect that was just drafted, or what the color of the suit that they're wearing, or what they think of the suit. So I kind of like try to involve her into it. This year was a little different. I went to a friend's house and watched it and just talked about it, and it was pretty cool. I called the Philly Dallas trade like right before it happened, and my friend's like, "Oh man, you called it," and I was like, "I don't know why I thought that. It just occurred. Like that never happens." But me, no draft prep. I always pay attention during all year round, and it just all comes out on draft day. Talking to my girlfriend.
Being able to watch the draft with your girlfriend, that's an awesome scenario. So kudos to you. In 8 years, nice. My wife hates football. Like it's not even apathy. She loathes it. So that's something I would never dare to dream.
I don't know. I mean, why? Why does she actively loathe football?
She thinks it's a stupid sport. She doesn't understand it. Games and sports in general. She's very a practical mind. So she's like, I just don't see what's the benefit. Like, it's so stupid. Why are they running around? And there's all these commercials, and it's so she likes the Olympics. So there's that. That's like the one sport I get to watch with her. But this is not a discussion about my wife's hate of the game. Let's bring it back to Will. Do you have any type of prep you do for the draft to get ready?
Yeah. A lot of it is based around like looking at team needs, right? Do I agree with the team's need versus what I would think they need versus what they're written up as? And then looking at people, I do a lot of first round mocks, and I research the people that are put into those mocks to just find a little bit about, people that I have no idea about, like mocking Basham or Basham or whatever the hell his name is to Buffalo.
Carlos Basham, yeah.
And then have him go there, right? You get a little more info about these kind of people. I pay a lot of attention to the first 2 rounds, and I pay a lot of attention to SEC talent, where they go, but I don't really pay attention to like the later rounds just because I don't know. Generally, I don't know shit about those players unless they went to Florida, right? So I know where all the Florida players went and how I feel about that, but really heavily invested in the first 2 rounds. Outside of that, not so much. I don't even watch the Saturday. I don't even typically watch the Saturday, but and then you come in on the back end, right, and you kind of see how all the value went down. But that's kind of my routine, if you will. I don't dedicate 25 man weeks. But
Joke's on you, man. You are missing out, my friend. There's no thrill like the hours of grinding.
Bro, like
Tape
I'm
dog.
old, bro. I barely have like too many sets of 25 man weeks left.
Wow, that took a dire turn. All right, so I'm a big fan of Todd McShay and Mel Kiper Jr. I've been following them for years, but previously it was always just their mock drafts. I read other mock drafts, but for some reason I just always tend to gravitate to theirs. Kiper's been doing this for something like 38 years, so I just feel like he really has a feel for what these prospects' actual chances of success are. The last couple years finally getting into podcasts, I listened to the First Draft podcast. They release it every week. Field Yates is the host now. It was a different host last year, so the entertainment factor is even better. But the reason I wanted to bring this up as a topic is I've watched Draft Day before, and it didn't really resonate. I didn't even really remember it. I watched it randomly. But I watched it again, specifically leading up to the draft. I think I finished it on Wednesday. And what an entirely different perspective watching this. And I won't do spoilers because apparently none of you football fans have seen the movie Draft Day, which is the only movie that's about the NFL draft that exists. But I digress. But it really pumped me up.
How are you gonna make a movie about a kid who like goes the whole movie, and in the end of the movie he gets drafted? That doesn't seem like a very good movie.
That's not what this movie is.
Or does
at
he
all.
It's
from the NFL
murder
side.
Somebody at the draft.
It's from the NFL side.
Oh.
It follows Kevin Costner is the GM of the Browns. It follows all these different teams. It shows the GMs and
I feel like it would have been better as Kevin
and
Bacon. Kevin Bacon is the PM of the Browns.
No, Kevin Costner, man. Watch the movie first, and then we can have a discussion.
We should have a whole palate cleanser on how Kevin Bacon is a better actor than Kevin Costner.
Fine, future palate cleanser topic. But right now, we're talking about Draft Day. I'm telling you guys should watch it. If you want to wait until next draft, I totally get that because it was a different perspective watching it this year.
I would love to watch a movie where Kevin Costner plays John Elway for 2 hours.
All right, so I am looking for a new co-host. Nick, Tommy, if you guys are up, we're going to cut Will here.
Cut him.
Caught him. No, but that's my suggestion. I just wanted to talk about that. It was watching it in the guise of the draft, right before the actual draft. The storylines are ludicrous. A lot of that stuff's not realistic. They're trading draft picks left and right. It takes 30 seconds on a phone for them to make some major trades. But it just the spirit of it is what I enjoyed, and it's not a horrible movie, and especially around draft, I recommend it.
I feel like if you would have brought Tommy on, it would have been we would have renamed the show "You Pipe Down." That's a good name. It's a good name.
By the way, this happens a few times every episode, so apologies. I can't control him. He just says random stuff. I want to go around the horn real quick because a couple of you guys, Nick started it mentioning mock drafts. What are your thoughts on mock drafts? Are they fun? Are they completely pointless? I mean, most mock drafts are markedly wrong. Our mock draft on this episode was way off. Our writer, Ross Crawford, did two mock drafts for us, also way off. Tommy, what are your thoughts on mock drafts as a whole?
I mean, I understand it. We are all football fans. We're all degenerates. We're trying to bridge the gap between the off season, so we force ourselves to be entertained by content like this. But me personally, I think it's so dumb because people get so angry about oh no, your mock draft sucks because this would. I'm just like, hold on. Like, this was supposed to be for fun, but we're attacking each other as if we know what's going to happen. And more often than not, everyone's mock draft, kind of like the March Madness brackets, are completely destroyed by the seventh pick, essentially, or even like less. And so to find people get like, if you just view it as a fun way to learn prospects that you didn't even, I wonder why they're in the first round, why they projected. Oh, I didn't know. Let me research. That's great. But if it becomes to like demonize people and attack other people and just points, I really, really don't understand that. And on my own podcast, I have a fantasy football podcast that's only meant for the fantasy football group in my dynasty league. But we made a mock draft. And even in that, I was lamenting it. I was like, this is so dumb. And at the very end, I said, hey, let's have a fab bet. Whoever gets more right, we get $5 a fab. All right, cool. Deal. I ended up getting like 8 right, and I was just like, this is so dumb because my mock draft was I had Waddle going. He was my second he was my third wide receiver off the board, and he didn't go until like pick 22. And I was like, I know this is wrong. This doesn't make sense. And this is so dumb, but it's wrong. But then it's kind of poetic and hilarious that I had way more than my other friend who was kind of trashing me saying this is dumb. And I was like, mock drafts are fun for entertainment, but when people try to figure it out as a fact, I'm just like, what are you doing? That's not what it's meant for. It's meant for fun.
I agree. I think that's the take, is that it's if people take it too seriously, like anything in life, it's going to be detrimental. If you just enjoy it for what it is, I agree. I like using it as a way to learn different prospects. I used to be way more into college football. Now, like you, Tommy, it's all NFL all the time. I don't really have capacity for college. So this is my way to learn these different prospects. If I see these names that keep popping up in the same mocks, they could end up being wrong, but at least they put some on my radar. I can do more research because I don't have the time to tape grind like you. Nick, any thoughts? Mock drafts for fun?
I think they're fun for, if you use it as a learning tool, like Tommy mentioned. I think they're fun for the people that do them. But for me personally, like, you talked about how you go to Todd McShay and Mel Kiper all the time. I try to spread my knowledge out really far. Like, I try and catch every mock draft to see what people are actually seeing, because a lot of times, like, I find myself in, like, the mindset of, like, oh, man, I didn't see this person going in the first round. And it's just because I didn't see him in a mock draft. And I feel like an idiot for, like, thinking that way. But it's an easy way to learn about these prospects, because a lot of times when you're talking NFL and talking to NFL people, they really only have the capacity for NFL. And, like, even me, when I, try and do a bunch of things, like college football is, like, one of my last priorities. But I will pay attention to prospects. I will pay attention to the minor league or the SEC. Try and catch some prospects, but mock drafts are fun, but don't use it to, like, demonize and try and, like, have, like, differences of opinion. Just accept that everybody has their own thinking.
That's right. Zeke Spoon has spoken.
Zeke Spoon spoke. So, I mean, like, the thing about mock drafts and the thing about the draft in general is, like, you never know, right? Like, the GOAT went in the 6th round for sure. And, like, even if you could compare people, you can't compare situations and you can't compare context, right? So, even if you could say, objectively, that Darnold is better than Wilson, right? That might not play out that way in the NFL at all, right? And it's because of context and
the situation they land in,
cast,
yep,
like all those things. So, the draft is fun. It's fun to think about, especially when you can land these, like, can't miss people and how they can change the dynamic of a team. But I think long term in the history of the NFL, like, it really doesn't mean anything, honestly.
I saw a fact that there are more, like, undrafted free agents in the Hall of Fame than number 1 overall picks. And
that
like,
is correct.
Like, it's almost like astrology for men. Like, it's just whatever we see in the stars and the tea leaves, like, that's what it is. But the draft is, like, one of the biggest crapshoots I've ever seen. Like, you can probably go to the casino and have better success than what the NFL teams do in the NFL. And they figured out a way to make money off of it, which is awesome. So I wish I was on that business model.
Yeah, completely agree. So I am not going to ask if everybody's cleansed, because we're still talking football. We're not even trying to cleanse. We're just trying to power through. So we're going to jump right into the flavor of the week topic this week. And as I mentioned previously, it is a team deep dive of Nick's Dallas Cowboys. So, Nick, we're just going to ask you some questions, going to go a little bit deep on Dallas. First, I want to get your thoughts, high level, on the 2020 season as a whole?
On the 2020 season, that was a freaking wash, man. Like, I was so excited for Dak at the beginning of the season, and CeeDee Lamb, like, he kind of was like popping a little bit with Dak. But when Dak went down, it was kind of like, okay, like, who's going to be the next guy up? Like, who's going to be the guy to lead the team? Zeke wasn't even the guy. Like, I was so disappointed. Like, Tony Pollard was honestly more exciting at some points than Zeke, and that was really, really bad. Kind of saw that Elliott became like kind of like the Robin of the team, and Dak became the Batman. And when Dak got signed, I was just like, whew, thank you. Like, I thought he was like leaving. Like, I thought, Jerry was trying to do his, whatever he does. Um, I was encouraged by the wide receiver play. I was encouraged by the offense once Dalton came back and started winning. The defense, LVE is not what I was looking for. I was very disappointed in him. He just cannot seem to stay healthy. His collarbone, his shoulder, whatever is going on up there is an issue. I was really encouraged by Jalen Smith. He was chasing almost every play. He chased himself to 154 tackles, but he always seemed like a step slower. So, maybe with Micah Parsons coming in, that will kind of be remedied, and we'll actually have like a legitimate linebacker instead of a fill-in, like when LVE went down. But overall, it was a wash season. Let's get Dak back. Let's get him healthy, and let's move on to the next season. I honestly thought that we were at least going to have like a deep playoff run with Dak there. But once he went down, I knew that went out the window.
What are your thoughts on Mike McCarthy so far?
Cannot evaluate him without Dak for a full season. With Dak in, he was impressive. I was like, whoa, like, here we go. Like, this is, like, Jason Garrett's out and Mike McCarthy's in. And I was very impressed, but when Dak went down, I was kind of impressed on how he kind of, like, led the troops. He kind of kept them fighting. I mean, shit, like, the going against Pittsburgh, that was a very impressive game. I watched that game, like, from first snap to last snap, and I was like, man, they took it to them every play, and Pittsburgh just eked out a win against them. So I was very impressed with that. Towards the end, it kind of like got hairy, but it always does with playoff. But Mike McCarthy, that was a hard year to go through for your first year back. But I think this year will be a more truer test. I think Dak will at least play 17 games.
Well, I was going to ask you about your thoughts on Dak, but it seems pretty clear you're a fan. But why don't you elaborate on that? Talk to us about it.
Yeah, I love him. He, coming in as like, I think it was like a 4th round pick, and coming in behind Tony Romo, and it's almost like he made everyone forget about him. And he had a couple guys get 100-yard games that I was like, who the hell is that guy? Like Cedric Wilson, like I was kind of surprised on him. He was very impressive. This year, he literally took a step forward and then got cut short. I thought he was gonna compete for the MVP. I thought he was gonna really put Dallas back on the map, and he just had that freak injury. I mean, we saw it with Alex Smith, we saw it with Dak. Dak definitely did not have as many issues as Alex, which is great news for the Cowboys. But I love Dak a lot, and I'm glad that he was signed. If he was not signed, I was gonna be like, oh my gosh, like what are we gonna do? Like we can't go back to like Quincy Carter, like that was a tough time. So I'm just glad that we don't have to worry about the. Yeah, Ben DiNucci was awful. Like
DiNucci.
the hype that Ben DiNucci had was incredible for how poor he played. Like, I thought he was going to, like, take over Dak's spot. I was like, well, I guess, like, we don't even need to worry about this extension because we got Ben DiNucci here. But
is that just Cowboy fan desperation or trying to grab onto anything? I mean, what was
realizing you had Andy Dalton.
Yeah, seriously.
Dalton's your alternative.
Like, it was we were hoping that anybody would get anything going for the offense because, I mean, Cooper still had an amazing season, and there was 4 different guys that threw to him. CeeDee Lamb still made a huge entrance into the NFL with 4 different quarterbacks throwing to him. Any receiver that has those kinds of seasons, yeah, like I don't get the hate on Michael Gallup. Why do people hate Michael Gallup? He's like one of the best number 2 receivers in the league. He could be like a 1B on some teams, and people just constantly get on him. And I'm just like, why? Like, To be honest, I mean, my Twitter name is Spoon of Zeke, but I would much rather wait the way that the offense is going. I would much rather get a haul for Zeke coming back to the Cowboys than give up Michael Gallup for like a pick. Like,
Would you then be Spoon of Dak?
I don't know what I would be. I think I might just have to keep it because everybody knows me as Spoon of Zeke. Because I've thought about that. Because I'm like, what if Zeke gets traded? And I'm like, I gotta stay.
He's still
Spoon
gonna
of
have
Zeke.
a spoon.
I mean, still gonna have the spoon, but I think that
Zeke is weird, dude. Like, I was really big on Zeke, right, coming out of Ohio State, and then
me too.
He was dominant as hell, but I feel like he needs some QB relief, right? Like, he needs to be able to have a little bit of pressure taken off of him, and he can take over games, dude. Zeke, I mean, there's a couple things, the coming in kind of out of shape thing didn't really do him any favors. He's had some weird
He had one too many spoons, apparently.
character things.
A gallon.
He had COVID, right? He had that for a while.
A thing about COVID, I literally thought COVID at that point was kind of like the Monstars because it seemed like everybody coming back from COVID had like an issue. Like Von Miller was the first one to get COVID. He tore his Achilles. And then Zeke got COVID and he couldn't catch a pass. Like, I saw him drop like 5 passes. I was like, what is going on right now? Like, I don't understand this. And he was like leading my team, and I ended up just at the end of the season picking up Tony Pollard and just stacking him. And just like, screw it. Like, I don't know who's going to get the ball at what point, but someone's going to pop off. But man, Zeke, I don't know what's been going on with him. I feel like since like the domestic issue happened, he's kind of been like way off. And I haven't been really happy with his play recently.
Yeah, Cam Newton got COVID, and he was still a bad quarterback. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
It was weird. It was very, very strange, like how the NFL was like working with COVID. And I was like with Zeke, it was just so easy to see because he dropped like 5 like swing passes or like flare outs, and I was just like, "What are you doing? Like, you have gloves on. Like, I know there's sticky stuff on those gloves. Like, what are you doing?" And it was almost like he had hands of stone, and I was like. That's why Tony Pollard came in and started playing because they saw that Tony could return kicks. He could, take the pass. He could run the ball. And he ran hard every single time. Like, if I was a coach, I'd be like, man, this kid Tony Pollard is looking better than Zeke right now. Like, hopefully we can just get out of his contract. But I want Tony on my team. And I've been really impressed with Tony.
I did correctly pick Tony Pollard week, I'll just have you know. And I also, last year, what was I going to say? Tony Pollard, I forget. I don't know what I was gonna say, but I did pick the week that Tony Pollard
from fantasy. You mean?
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
Fantasy. I was gonna
He
say
was something.
No, I can't remember.
Let's talk about the draft class. You obviously mentioned Micah Parsons, but what are your thoughts as a whole for the draft class for Dallas? We haven't really talked about that yet.
When J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain were taken, I was hoping we were going to trade down further to try and get a little bit more for what like we were doing. When we moved back like 2 spots, was it? Or 1 spot, I was just like, man, like, why? Like, I understand getting a little bit more back, but you could have like probably gotten a haul from like someone else that's trying to move up further. But
did it hurt, especially the fact that you traded with Philadelphia?
It was weird. It was like kissing your sister. It was weird. Like
there you go. I was gonna say he's being too PC. Let's get some comments out of you.
It was just weird.
Whoa, no, Will.
It was just weird because NFC never trades, and you don't do like in division trades. But it was mostly draft picks that were being traded, and the positions were just there. But it was very, very strange. I don't know why I called it at that time with my friend. He'll vouch for me. I definitely called it, but I was just like, man, Philadelphia and Dallas just popped in my head for that trade.
I mean, you're both playing catch up to the football team next year.
No. With Alex Smith is gone, there's no way that team has any.
They've
kind
got
of success.
Fitzmagic, man. Do not
Fitzpatrick,
disparage the.
Who is so much
He's
better
good
than
for
Alex
6
Smith.
games. He's good for 6 games, and then the magic wears off.
He's good for 6 touchdowns a game.
Washington only needed 7 games to win the division last year.
Right.
6 games can get it done.
That's what I'm saying. 6 games, because 6 games is like just below what me and Philly are going to be doing. I mean, I don't really have too much hope for Philly, but.
There we go. Now the things are coming out. So let's transition into 2021. I want to hear predictions, and I do want to get Tommy involved in this part as well. what are your predictions for the Dallas Cowboys in 2021?
Predictions: if Dak is healthy all season long, I'm saying we win around 10 to 11 games. That passing offense was great. The draft, we got some defensive players, man. Like they really did attack the defense, and I was very happy with that. Kelvin Joseph, the corner, Micah Parsons is a great consolation prize. Like, and the thing was, when that pick happened, I was worried about what's going to happen with LVE. Like, I thought Jalen Smith was going to get kicked out. Nope, they're declining the option. We're seeing where the ball is moving. I think that last year defense couldn't catch a damn cold, and it was embarrassing. It was awful, and we had to score 50 points to win. And when Dak went down, that all went out the window. I think that the defense is a lot better this year, and we'll be able to hang on for 10 to 11 games.
Tommy, your rebuttal.
I've been purposely being quiet for the most of this side of the podcast.
I've noticed.
I just have a big old smile on my face, and for those of you who can't see it, I've just been. So is this how Eagles fans sound like sometimes? Because let's just replay a little bit of what was been said. He said he thought the Cowboys were going to make a deep playoff run before Dak went down. He thought, once again, not make the playoffs, but make a deep playoff run. Let me remind you that when Dak was playing, he was 1-3, and the one game he won was a very impressive comeback against Atlanta. I agree, but Atlanta should not have lost that game. They had a gigantic lead week 2, and they barely won 40-39. But
they don't understand onside kick rules, or else
exactly
they would have been
right.
1-3 in the NFC with second place. And the NFC
and
went
what
through
you're
second
saying
place.
is, hey Tommy, that's not fair. A win is a win. I'll give it to you. But once again, he went down. They're 1-3. Their defense is historically bad, which I agree would definitely put their stuff together towards the end of the season. So I have respect for that. But at the same time, if you make the argument saying, well, the defense is historically bad, it was going to regress. Well, I would make the same arguments with the Cowboys offense. They were going at a historic rate. That would have regressed back to the kind of back to the way it was as well. So it's just great to me when they're like, oh, I would make a deep playoff run. And then when Ben DiNucci went down, of course the hype went big. It happened in Dallas. Dallas, they need hope. They over-exaggerate everything. So while I'm sitting here, everyone's like, we don't even need this. Like, it's smart that Jerry... And once again, I know those were the dumb Dallas fans. I know real Dallas fans are like, what are you guys talking about? But to me, as an Eagles fan, it's like, this is why everyone hates Dallas. Dallas could win like 2 games in a whole year, and I'm just trying to think of a team. And the Titans can win 14 games. Guess what they're going to be talking? They're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys having the 2 wins.
Everybody hates Dallas.
Exactly. They're not going to be like, oh, great for Tannehill, great for Tennessee doing. Nope. They're going to be like, so what did Jerry say? And I'm just like, yo. So I'm just smiling because the over exaggerations, overhype, and seeing everything through rose tinted glasses makes me very happy. But to Cowboys fans. Delight. I also think Dallas has a very strong chance winning the division this year. I definitely would not write off Washington football team. That defense is absolutely filthy, and in my opinion, they got an upgrade at quarterback. Whatever your opinion of Ryan Fitztragic or Fitzmagic may be, in my opinion, he still got it. He slings it, and there's nothing more dangerous than an old veteran thinking, this is my last shot, so let's go down in a blade of glory or a flame of glory, whatever you want to call it. He's going to be chucking it down. They got Curtis Samuel, Mclaren. Oh, it feels weird trying to talk up another NFC team because I also hate Washington. But all I'm saying is I still think Dallas has what it has to take to win the division, unfortunately. But you shouldn't discount Washington. I think they're good. And by the way, just to show that I'm showing my bias, I'd be surprised if the Eagles win more than like 5 to 7 games. Sorry, maybe that's too much. Maybe it's like more closer to 4 to 6. I don't think they're going to be very good, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to look at Dallas to kind of take the baton. They had every excuse the past 5 years to be good, and they have a new excuse it's because Dak went down. Oh, bad coaching staff. Oh, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, let's keep going.
Hang on. First of all, let's address a few things. Can we all agree that Terry McLaurin is probably like a top 5 receiver in the NFL?
He made me eat my words last year. He's really good.
He is absolutely incredible. And he finally has someone that will actually get him the ball down the field. he's gonna pop off this year like you've never seen.
And someone who's relatively known to pump up and throw to their wide receivers. Fitzmagic?
Exactly.
Or I'll call it by the real name. Ryan Fitzpatrick loves throwing to his number one receiver, whoever that will be, and that has been his calling card. And now having someone as talented as Terry McLaurin, he made Devontae Parker look good. And Devontae Parker has done nothing without him. And now you go to someone like Terry McLaurin, who made a name for himself with no one throwing him the ball. Okay, well, let's have some fun.
To be fair, you also have Tua, and that's why he did nothing. Devontae.
Hey, we don't have to bring Tua in. No, we
talk
are
about
not
that.
talking about Tua right now.
I believe in Tua. All right, Brian, I'm coming to you. I believe in Tua.
No,
I
listen.
Thank you,
think
Tom.
he's
I'll
going to
tell
be
you
good, and
why-
everyone is like,
Hang on. I'll tell you why people shit on the Cowboys, right? Like, I'm old. I don't know how old are you, Nick?
28.
All right, I'm 38.
You always say you're old like you're young, like you're older than
I
me.
was introduced to football in the early 90s, bro. Like Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Daryl Johnson, Jay Novacek. I can name that whole team from those 3 years. The whole thing. Russell Maryland, Larry Allen, like I can go on, right? That
Leon Lett.
that
There's a
carries
Dolphins
over.
memory for you.
The turkey flop thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That carries, Russell Maryland way down, and through the years. Cowboys have, for how good they are, I think, and I don't know if this is still true. It was true at one point in time. They're the most valuable sports franchise, like at all, sports brand, like in the world, which is incredible, or at least, states. They're incredible. I mean, soccer has got a lot of value over there, so I don't know about soccer, but it's unreal, like, for the level of success that they've had recently. And that's why a lot of people like to shit on them, because also, I mean, Cowboys fans, super loyal, super loud, you know what I mean? They got, like, this whole, like, Texas thing going on, but they're not the Texans, so that's kind of where it comes from, man. Like, the Cowboys need to be relevant. Like, the Cowboys cannot be... Like, there are some teams that could just be removed from the NFL and no one would care. Like the Cardinals.
Houston.
Texans.
And the Texans. Like, if you just removed them from the NFL, people would be like, okay, like, I get it.
did anything happen at all?
Do what?
I said, did anything actually? It's kind of like if a tree falls down, no one's around it. It's kind of like if you just take away the Cardinals, did anything actually happen? Did any change happen?
That's the thing. Like, when you think about sports teams, there are some teams that just are perennially have to be relevant in that sport. And the Cowboys are one of them for the NFL, right? You've got the Yankees in baseball. You've got the Lakers in basketball, right? There are better teams in any given season. But like that's who the Cowboys are for football. I actually don't think I could name a more iconic NFL franchise than the Dallas Cowboys. Right? So they just have that following. That's
love them or hate them, you got to admit that they are icons of the league.
And Tony Romo has proven to be the GOAT of announcing. He's way better at that than he was ever football. So we have that too.
So I want to wrap this up, but first, I want to give kudos to Anthony. We need to bring him on as a hype man, because whatever he said, like one thing to Tommy, and that just got Tommy all wound up, and I love it. So Anthony, let's get some sort of hype man drop. I don't care what you play. Play something. Give us a drop. There we go.
That? What sound was that?
Stomp.
It sounded like a little stomp, a little something. I got a little pumped up. I think that's a great way to end the show. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Will, whatever, you're there. You're going to be there next week and the week after, so you're obligated to come. Thank you so much, Tommy Yu from the U Deep Dive podcast, Eagles fan, super animated, pumped up. May not go to sleep for a few hours. I think he's pretty revved up right now. Make sure to check out
7 years of his life to get back from prepping for the draft.
This is his time to relax and focus on his other podcast. So make sure to check out
ready
U
for
Dive
next
Deep.
year's draft.
But that's a lot of hours of taping. Yeah, you got to start early. Nick, Spoon of Zeke, thank you so much for coming on. Been wanting to have you. We scheduled this a while ago, so we're super excited to have you on. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. Check us out on Twitter at Official PP Pod. Watch this on YouTube. Leave us those comments and likes. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Look for our Discord community. The link will be in the episode description. Our writer, Ross Crawford, has written a winners and losers as well that will be separate from what we talked about. We'll make sure to drop that on our Patreon and our website. So thanks again for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week on the PPP.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Pigskin Party Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. We'll catch you in the next Pigskin Party.